never changes.
But the way it has been waged, at least in Fallout, has. Through the years, people have beat these games in every way imaginable. Fists only, a simple wooden board, the commie-whacker, countless other tedious methods. Hello everyone, I'm Rando. And about 4 years ago, when I first started watching Fallout Challenge videos, I noticed no one had done one using only Caltrops. So, because I suddenly found myself with an abundance of free time, I decided to try the run myself. But that was 4 years ago, and a lot can change. I got married, had a kid, the absolute mad lad that is Nurbit did a Caltrops run. Go check out that video if you somehow haven't done that already. But more importantly, a year ago we lost the man that I imagine was the spark that got most of us into the challenge run scene. Paul of Mitten Squad. At the time, I thought I might edit my run and get it out shortly after I heard the news, but that felt like taking advantage of his death. Instead, I want this video to be a memorial. I have no intention of making videos like this on the regular, but I wanted to show the inspiration Paul gave people. I will freely admit that this has been hastily edited and recorded, even though, like I said, I've had 4 years, but I am a chronic procrastinator that has to wait until the last moment to get anything done. But without further ado, let's get into the hell that was the Caltrops only run. So we do the usual song and dance. Run out the house, say hi to the neighbors, do a little jump here and there, say hi to the guards, watch the world end, get turned into a popsicle, become single, escape the cryopod, grab the first of what is to be a lot of junk, run past the rad roaches, learn that the natural enemy of rad roaches is doors, and now to get to the skip that I'm sure most of you have seen before. You can't leave the vault if the rad roaches are still alive, or at least not if they're in the room. So I have to run around the room a bit till they finally all get behind a door, their natural enemy. I then have to wait in the corner for a minute, waiting for the rad roaches to lose interest in me. This takes quite a while, which is why I increased the speed to 4 times here. This will be a quote-unquote trick I'll be using for most of the run, as the amount of tedium cannot be exaggerated. I exit the vault into the bright light of day, return home and talk to Codsworth for a little bit, and then begin the ever-exhausting task of scrapping absolutely everything in Sanctuary. Normally, I would just be doing this for fun or to get levels, but this time I actually have a reason. I need as much steel as humanly possible. But what I also need is levels. Because if I'm going to be using a weapon that, as you'll see in a minute, does next to no damage, I want to be as healthy as possible. So I'll be farming for experience as much as I possibly can, as well as acquiring as many healing items as I can find. With my first level farmed, I put a point into Idiot Savant for more experience. While this was a good idea, I leveled up much faster than I would otherwise. The Idiot Savant's sound didn't stop for quite some time. It was very annoying. Then I crafted as many Caltrops as I could physically carry. I had my first combat experience at Red Rocket facing the mole rats, but I got my hopes up because they seemed to die very quickly, but it was hard to tell if that was from the Caltrops or dog meat killing everything. When I finally made my way to Concord, reality set in, and I knew what I was in for the rest of this run. My enemies in the wasteland were doomed to a fate of stepping on Legos until they die. There is a slight advantage because there is a chance every time they step on a Caltrop that their leg will become crippled, at which point they become helpless as I toss thumbtacks into their crotch. What a way to go. I'm going to be cutting most of the Museum of Freedom short for reasons that I'll get to later, so I met up with Preston, grabbed the power armor, and made my way down to fight the raiders. It was going well enough. Some of them died pretty quickly. I think Preston got a few lucky shots in here and there to help things die. Gristle was unfortunate enough to have his leg be crippled the instant the Deathclaw woke up, so I left him to his fate. Might be a little cruel, but any damage is good damage on the Deathclaw, because I don't see this going well. I was correct. Several minutes into fighting the Deathclaw, Raider decided I was apparently public enemy number one, and the giant murder chameleon wasn't worth his time. Fortunately, the Deathclaw had no such qualms. This was where something strange happened. More raiders came to find me up the stairs. Not only that, the Deathclaw seemed to decide it was needed elsewhere. I thought maybe going inside and coming back out would reload it, but the Deathclaw was gone. So I took this opportunity to go back to Sanctuary and heal up, restock on Caltrops, and maybe get a few levels. This was where I made the decision that the current setup just was not going to cut it. When I originally started this run, I thought there was only one type of Caltrop, just the regular little spike that goes in your shoe. But as I was playing, I realized that there was another one, the poison Caltrop. But that required 7 in intelligence, something I didn't have because I planned on using Idiot Savant, which works better with low intelligence. So I restarted, respect my character, and did everything over again. While I was doing the thing in Sanctuary, I realized I didn't talk to Codsworth, and I thought it would be interesting to see what would happen if you didn't talk to him at all, went to him at the end of the game. I'll show that later. So, back to scrapping everything humanly possible and doing it all over again. And now back to Concord. Let's see how the damage stacks up. Yeah, that's way better. So much better. I found myself much like Nurbit, trying to plan ahead when putting the spikes down, thinking that the enemies would walk through certain pathways or cutting off avenues of flanking. It usually worked out better just to toss them at their feet and hope for the best. Now for the real damage test, the Deathclaw. Not only is the damage way better, I think Preston helped a little bit here and there, but the Deathclaw also didn't decide that its people needed them. He actually stayed the entire fight, and after many, many grueling minutes, the Deathclaw finally goes down. I'm gonna be skipping a lot of B-roll from here on out. Just know that between every combat encounter, I probably spent another 30 minutes plus scrapping every weapon I could find, grabbing every tin can, doing little side missions to get as much metal as I could physically get. Not always breaking even if I had to fight something. So I met the Minutemen back at Sanctuary, did the first Minutemen mission at Ten Pines Bluff, went to clear the raiders out, spent way too many resources and time trying to take out this auto turret for some reason. Honestly, don't know why I did that. I wasted so many Caltrops. So I went to Jared, went to help Trudy with Wolfgang, for some other reason, I decided I would go clear out the drive-in movie theater, scrapping every car I could find, and then try and drag all that steel back to Sanctuary. Again, I don't know why I did this. This took so long walking back. Although that is one thing that people that know me get kind of frustrated with. I am constantly teetering on the edge of carry capacity. I pick up everything in every game I ever play. Yes, I have a problem. While on the way to Diamond City, I decided to help these guards take out the local super mutants, mostly to test see how well the damage works on them. It worked well enough, but unfortunately, for some reason, after I killed the last super mutant, apparently they decided I was the next target. But I decided to keep running, see if maybe the other people would be happy. But no, everyone hated me, including Piper. So I just accepted my fate, left the super mutants alone, and entered Diamond City. I was going to cut out the part where I go to Diamond City and just cut straight to trying to get Nick Valentine in the subways, but then this happened. Don't know why that happened, but I thought it was funny. Anyway, back to Valentine. I was planning on running past all the mobsters, but they kept swarming me, so I had to finish them all off. Then finished off Dino, got Nick, explained to him why I was there, and made the first and possibly only good charisma check I did for the entire game. I did not want to fight Skinny Malone. While I was doing the Kellogg shuffle, talking to Nick, getting the key, going to his house, figuring out where he was, I was thinking about what faction to side with. And I'll be honest, I've never beaten this game before. I like to complete games before I finish the main story, so my main playthrough, I kinda did a little bit of every side quest and never actually bothered finishing the main quest. I'd seen from other challenge runners what the different factions require to win, but I didn't know which one would be easiest for this instance. The one interaction I've had with super mutants was less than stellar, so I was already kind of ruling out the Brotherhood, but the next part would solidify my faction of choice. I'm gonna join the Institute, because I don't want to fight synths. Not only were there a lot of them, they were not able to be poisoned. Nothing from the Institute's able to be poisoned. Keep that in mind for later. After slogging my way through the upper floor synths, I made my way down to Kellogg. I thought, surely, he's a man. He can be poisoned. No, he works for the Institute. He can't be poisoned. So, my original plan of focusing Kellogg down and ignoring everything else wasn't gonna work. I didn't come with nearly enough Caltrops, and not only did I die, I ran out. So I had to take a step back, leave Fort Hagen, farm a lot more, and then come back definitely ready. Probably. Bringing the even broken suit of power armor wasn't just an idea to help me survive a little bit longer. I thought if I could, maybe I could wedge him in a corner and take the power armor off and hide behind it. That wound up not working, but the wedging him in a corner certainly did. I eventually managed to shove him in a corner, and not only was he stuck, he barely fought back. And we were behind the desk, so his synth buddies weren't able to hurt me nearly as much as they normally could. I may or may not have accidentally thrown a couple of punches in there, but if you're gonna invalidate my entire run because of that, rest assured, I did go back and finish it without hitting him. This was just the better footage. Brotherhood arrives. I watch my son get teleported away. Nothing of note happens in the glowing sea outside of me stealing Virgil's tin cans. The assault on green tech genetics was better than I expected, at least I think I remember it being. I wormed my way through all the hallways and whatnot, searching for as much extra metal and scrap as I could. There was a lot there, and that actually kind of helped break the gunners up so I could pick them off one by one. But the real problem was obviously the courser. Again, can't be poisoned. Very tanky, high damage, and can heal. My initial attempt took forever, and unfortunately ended in disappointment, as he healed so much that I actually ran out of Caltrops. So the second time, I wasted little time shoving him into the same corner that I had ended the previous engagement, and this time, I got lucky. I managed to break his leg so he laid on the ground, and for some reason, he doesn't heal from this position. So it just took several minutes of tossing spikes into his crotch, and he eventually died. Finally. This was the point I decided to make a controversial decision. I was going through more Caltrops than I was making back, meaning I would either have to farm for caps and buy the steel, which is something I never really enjoyed doing, or utilize the duplication glitch, something I genuinely didn't know existed until I googled it for the run at the time. But I eventually figured it out and farmed up enough metal to where I would never have to worry about crafting caltrops again. After all, the tedium of the fight is worth more than the tedium of having to farm for metal or scavenge everything I could. I still filled my pockets with every piece of scrap metal I could find, but that's just me. So after finding my way to the railroad and getting jump scared into thinking that they're gonna just end me on the spot, I get the chip decoded, get the schematics from Virgil, build the teleporter with the Minutemen, teleport my way into the Institute, and find my son. After agreeing to work with them, I go to Libertalia, have the classic Libertalia experience, managed to find my way through. Not that it was very hard. I took it very well and in stride. I used the recall code on the escaped synth, then went on to the Battle of Bunker Hill, a scene I've actually never done before, like I said before. This was actually pretty easy because the Railroad, the Brotherhood, and the Institute were all fighting each other, and so I actually didn't have to do a whole lot. Just make my way down to the bottom, use the recall codes again, and be on my merry way. What came next was both interesting and very embarrassing. I've literally never been into the CIT ruins. So when I needed to find the roof where Father was, I couldn't find it for a very long time. I'm not going to bother calculating the time, but based on the footage I have, just know it was probably 10 to 15 minutes. But once I found it, I talked to Father. The next location was unfortunately the Mass Fusion building, where I would have to fight the Brotherhood of Steel. One-on-one, that's not too bad, but they're rarely alone. Fortunately, on the inside, I had a mostly immortal helper to deal with the ranged enemies, but I still had to fight my way down to what I knew would be the real fun. The two Assaultrons and the Securitron that would come out once you remove the core. Once I got to the bottom floor, I thought I'd get ahead of the game with the Assaultrons at least and throw a bunch of spikes in front of their door. Unfortunately, for some reason, I decided not to do the same thing with the Securitron. I thought, how bad could the damage really be? Oh boy. So I quickly reloaded and decided to do the same thing with the Securitron. don't know how much it actually helped in the long run, but after a long, arduous fight, mostly involving hiding while the Institute scientist did her thing, I was eventually victorious, even against the Protectrons, which I completely forgot about somehow. This next bit really hurt, because it was really making me feel what I believe is 1 point of charisma I have. I tried for about 30 minutes to convince the Minutemen to let us in to see the scientist, and then tried not quite as long, but pretty long to convince the scientist to come with us, and I could not get any of the charisma checks to work. I really didn't want to have to kill the Minutemen, but at this point I was already siding with the Institute, so why not just go all in? Speaking of going all in, this is where the Institute decides to not only send one person to take care of the railroad, but also their future director. Either way, the war of attrition ends all foes. Except for Pam. For some reason, she wasn't hostile. But she also didn't count as an enemy, so that worked out well. Now for the part that I'd been dreading and waiting for this whole time. The assault on the Brotherhood of Steel. Did one last restock of armor and healing items and Caltrops, obviously. Probably just about at the limit of what I can carry. And so, with one last level assignment, I travel back to the Institute and get teleported to the Boston airport. I believe this was technically my second try at infiltrating the Brotherhood, but I don't have that footage anymore. So, I do my best to avoid as many people as I can, but I throw the random Caltrop here and there, whittle them down. In my first attempt, I did learn that you're not able to destroy the generators with Caltrops, so unfortunately I do have to punch them. But they're technically not people, so I'm not gonna hold that against my end score, but if you choose to do so, I physically cannot stop you. So 1, 2, and 3 generators. Then I rush to Liberty Prime, where my main goal is to just pile as many Caltrops on the stairs as I physically can and hope for the best. The only thing I'm really worried about are any of the named Brotherhood members. There's Proctor Ingram, and I think Elder Maxon even shows his face at some point. There's also Paladin Dance, who for the first time in I think any of my playthroughs I haven't actually talked to him, so this is our first meeting. At the end of the day, the Brotherhood were only holding off the inevitable. My tiny floor spikes had won, and I blew up the airport. I had one last conversation with my son, and I had beaten the game with only Caltrops. I genuinely don't remember how I felt at the time. Again, it was 4 years ago, but I think the fact that I actually got it done makes me feel pretty good. And I know technically now I'm second best, but I have had it sitting in a box for a while. I wanted to get it done. Afterwards, I go back to Sanctuary and talk to Codsworth for the first time in this playthrough, and the interaction's quite unique. I'll let it play out here.
You're looking good for a robot that survived an atomic war.
Well, I have picked up a few minor scratches and, dare I say, stains. But all in all, the inner workings are top-notch. And I see you've taken up a new look. I take it the husband approves. Where is her, by the way?
He's in a better place.
tragedy. If I could feel, I would be quite distraught over the news. And young Sean? What of your son?
Sean's all grown up now.
Mum, this news. I never imagined our reunion to be quite like this. Please allow me to serve by your side. It's the least I can do.
Would you like to?
As you wish, Mum.
No, not now.
All right, then.
With all that done, I rest sitting on the pillars of my madness. And I'll say thank you for watching. If you've gotten to the very end, thank you. I don't expect this to do very well, but like I said, I just want this to be a memorial to Mitten Squad and a reminder that you can pretty much do anything as long as you put your mind to it, no matter how maddening it may be. Well, hopefully I'll see you guys around on something different, I don't know. But hope you have a good day. I've been Rando Calzonian. Thank you for coming.